Hey, Jack. All right. You got this stuff?
Yeah, all cleaned in oil.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Let's get it on.
Who are these guys?
It's my theme music. Every good hero should have some.
Live from Springfield, Missouri, the one, the only, Pop
Excuse me, can I get a cup of coffee? Black? Can't you see we talking? White?
Good morning, everyone, and happy Leap Day. Wow. Every 4 years. And we get a very, very special day for many people around the world. Good morning, Penny. Good morning, Anima Confusa. Gap After Dark. Wow. Well, look, let me at least set the record straight. The title's a little misleading. In actuality, it's the birth of Kal-El. Kal, son of El, from the planet Krypton. This is actually his birthday. In fact, I think the way that it's explained goes a little something like this. This is his birthday as according to the Krypton calendar. Okay, so it's basically celebrated on 35 Erex 9998, according to the Krypton calendar. Okay, otherwise known as and or transferred into our language being February 29th. How are you, Martin?
I'm fine. I'm learning again from you, as always.
Well, let me continue your nerd education. This is just one of the many facts that have been added to the character over the many decades that he's been around. After being created by Joe and Gerry, Siegel and Schuster, those two crazy kids from Cleveland. And let me just say that as a lifelong Superman fan, I've enjoyed all his adventures. Well, with the exception of what's been done in comics over the last 10 to 12 years. It's not been that's not been fun, But yeah, lifelong fan. Everything from Kirk Allen all the way to the main man himself, Henry Cavill. And now we are on the verge of receiving a brand new actor stepping into the cape. And let me just say officially that I'm happy about that. I mean, again, I will always look, as far as I'm concerned, Henry Cavill's the man. He is the total package. And if there were any justice in this world, he would still be Superman.
Okay, hear me out.
Yeah.
Time passes, and
yes, it does.
It applied its brush to all of us.
Yes,
Henry, he's getting a more mature look. I have two words to say to you: Kingdom Come. Imagine him with those gray sideburns and that big black and red shield. Mm.
You
Telling
know
you,
what?
he's the soups for Kingdom Come.
You know what though? Here's the thing. Who's your Batman for Kingdom Come?
Oh, now you killed me.
That's the thing. I got no problem with that, but who you're going to cast as all the other major roles in that story? I mean, if you're going to make Kingdom
Hugh
Come,
Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Mhm.
Wait a minute.
Wait a
Wait a minute.
minute.
What did you do to my mind, man? You're bending my mind. I can actually see that. Wow. Okay. Okay.
Oh, do you want a little bend in there?
Okay.
I was playing with some ideas last night, and I decided to go to an AI generator, AI image generator, and run Sarah Michelle Gellar as Supergirl.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, of course she's out of the age window, but
Yes.
in the days of Buffy, she was the perfect Supergirl.
Yeah. Yeah. And based on her height, yeah, standing next to Henry Cavill, he would have more than just dwarfed over her. I mean, Sarah Michelle's not that tall. Not that tall.
No, she's not. Hey, Monkey Jeebus.
But oh wow, man, you bending my mind. Hello, Monkey Jeebus. Superman is Canadian. Okay, David Coinsweat. Yes, yes. For the first time in a long time. So we've gone from Texas to Canada in 86 years. Over the course of 86 years. And wow is all I can say. But you know what? With Cal being a leap year baby, that means the next time we're able to celebrate his birthday will be during the 90th anniversary of Superman.
Think
Oh,
maybe that was planned that way.
I have no idea. I have no idea. I'd like to, you know what? If it helps you to think that, then think that. I'm just thinking, okay, that makes it special in a way that Superman is technically so much younger than all the other heroes. Okay, monkey. Whoa, whoa, hold up. No, 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 no. That is that's a mixed view of the actual truth. I will say that the Toronto Star is the inspiration for the Daily Planet. But that a majority of what we now know as Metropolis is a combination of Cleveland, Toronto, but mainly New York.
Okay, but
Mainly
read
New
this
York.
comment from him. That's interesting.
Get a map of Metropolis and Toronto, it's the same. Interesting. I will get a map of Toronto.
Interesting is that you said you will get a map of Toronto, but you don't need to say that you will get a map of
Yeah,
Metropolis.
because
So you know that city.
well, that's because no. The thing is that depending on what your source is for the map of Metropolis, every map that I've ever seen of Metropolis is based on New York City. I get what you're saying, Monkey, But every map I have seen of Metropolis is based on New York City. So I don't know what to tell you, Monkey Jeebus. But man, I mean, we got a lot of look. It's hard not to be a fan of Superman. It is rare that you can find any comic book fan that is not a fan of Superman. Mainly because, everything we have is because of that one character. This is the character that really started everything off. You cannot not credit that character. I'm sorry, you just can't. There's no way around that. And as much as even many Marvel fans may try, Superman really is the beginning. 1938 is the year. And Wolverine 626. Let's see. He asked. Oh, wait a minute. Cam's Crash Course says, I always thought it was based on New York City. Partially. Let's see. Wolverine 626 asks, so Keith, what do you think of the speculation that Superman Legacy S Shield is the Kingdom Come S Shield? Based on recent teases, it appears to be the case. Yeah, it looks like it. I mean, I tease online that it looks like we're going to bring back one of the previous actors. But I was teasing. I honestly thought we were looking at Brandon Routh again, which I wouldn't mind Brandon Routh. I thought he was a good Superman.
Yeah, but he needs a better script.
Oh, he needs a way better script, but he was the first one of the modern day Supermen that
really looked the part.
Yeah, but I mean,
his acting.
Well, he showed that you could do a lot with Superman now. Visual effects. I mean, he's part of that first generation post Matrix. And with the development of visual effects, it showed, the whole thing with the glass in the middle of the movie with the shattered glass in downtown Metropolis showed that, you could do a lot with this character. I thought his performance was really good. I thought it would have been better if he'd been allowed to stretch a little bit and not try to base everything what he was doing on something that a previous actor had done, which was part of the performance for that film, linking it to the Donner films.
Well, it was a sequel to the Donner's film.
Yes, it was. But I felt he was limited by that because now you're trying to base his performance on another actor and on a feeling that people got when watching movies that were done, in my opinion, at least in the case of the first two, meaning the 1978 film and Richard Donner's version of the sequel. Two films that were much better than the whole of what came after. Both in terms of story and casting and imagination. Again, nothing against the whole of everybody that's come along since then, but I just think that it's hard to really beat the Donner films as a whole, Wolverine 626 says, I like Superman Returns, but I'm not much of a fan of the suit. I can see that. Me either. I thought that the suit was a little odd. So
I don't know. I like the shield in that suit. The 3D one.
Mm-hmm. I like it. It's just not big enough, in my opinion. It's a little on the small side.
It's a little small, yes.
First comic characters where a cat and Mouse, then the Yellow Kid. Yes, we're going back into comic strip history. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Wow, and Wolverine 66 said, I'm such a Superman fan that my genetics said I needed glasses. Well, we got to keep that secret identity going. I think, Monkey G. Okay, I'd missed that earlier. I think Monkey Jeebus says, I think superheroes would eventually exist because pulp heroes you're right, because of pulp heroes with fantastic powers. Superman actually borrows from a few things, although not just pulp heroes. In the case of Superman, Superman is really a science fiction concept developed by Gerry and Joe. And they're part of that generation of young people that came up at a time, grew up at a time where science fiction was really the subversive material. For them, science fiction was what beatnik poetry and music were to the next generation of young people in the 1950s. What rock and roll was to an entire generation in the 1950s and 60s. Science fiction books, novels, stories had characters and concepts that in many ways still far and away more advanced than anything that Hollywood is doing in their version, which I lovingly call sci-fi. Sci-fi is really just a Hollywood version of science fiction. It's the Cliff Notes version. Because not everything that Hollywood does is a complete translation of what's in the novels. Big concepts, characters that are way different than what you would think. And in the case of certain novels, you either have lead characters that were characters of color and or women. And this is well before the modern day take on trying to do things a certain way. This is one of the reasons why a lot of those people that believe that are a little uneducated. And when I say a little, I mean just take the word a little out. They really don't know. There is a lot to all of this. But if you don't know, and if all of what you know comes from what Hollywood has entertained you with or told you about, you're missing out on all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. Heck,
Now,
Hollywood. Oh, go ahead.
Jeebus has this information that is conflicting with what I know. He says that Superman was originally evil and that he was designed as a despot and then repurposed as a hero. Now,
Okay.
Wait. Because what I know may be a myth. I saw in a documentary that one of the origin of Superman is one of those guys. I don't remember if it was Siegel or if it was Schuster. One of those, because they both were bullying constantly, and one of those had a dream in which his dream was this character who defended them.
Mm-hmm.
And then he woke up in the middle of the night and started to flesh out the character, making some sketches and thing, and then later in the day he went to the other guy and told him about this character, and they came, and both of them came with the name. That is the origin story that I know. I don't know if that's right.
It both of you are right. Okay, both of you have parts of the story. The Gerry and Joe came up with a story about a race of supermen. and it was a science fiction story about a race that can do anything, that is so advanced, where the people are in such perfect health that they can leap over and do incredibly, do incredible things. And
So
it's part futuristic, part, it was a story. But what you're talking about, Martin, is actually also true about the dream and coming up with a character, and eventually taking a name that they had used for that story and using it, that instead of men, it became man. Okay?
Mm.
So, yeah.
Robert Kirkman then stole the idea to create the Viltrumites.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, the
Robert Kirkman-
Viltrumites are the original Kryptonians then.
Yeah. I don't know if for that story they were called Kryptonians, but I know that Gerry and Joe came up with a science fiction. Like I said, they are from a generation that just couldn't get enough science fiction. They read everything. And but it wasn't just that. I mean, when they graduated high school, which is where they were when they came up with a lot of this stuff, and decided to try to make comics their thing, they had to come up with other ideas. Superman was not their first idea. Okay. They actually started with Slam Bradley, who was a detective. And that was part and parcel to some of the characters that were popular in magazines leading up to the year 1938. And hard-boiled detective who always, like a Sam Spade type. And they came up with a few other characters before they got to Superman. So let me also dispel the myth that Superman was their first idea that they sold right out of the box. That was not how it happened. And a lot of biographies about those guys, they just skipped straight to that part of the story. Even though if you look into what they created, there's all these other characters. And in Superman's first appearance in Action Comics, there are other characters there. So, whoa, look at who's there.
Hello, John.
Thank you, John. Thank
Have
you,
a good
good
day.
man. Let's see. Wolverine 66 says it may have started out that Routh's Superman was Christopher Reeve's Superman, but it's been retconned that Brandon Routh's Superman now exists on its own Earth, which is a good thing for Reeve. Yeah, I can see that. I understand it's been retconned by it was retconned really by the people behind the CW stuff. So I don't count that. I don't count that. I'm sorry. Look, I will say this. What you had, if you are not someone that is a real DC Comics fan and you don't look into these characters too deeply, and you just have a surface level knowledge or a Wikipedia knowledge of some of these characters, what you got from Greg Berlanti was amazing. But if you are a DC Comics fan and you've been reading these characters for years, and you've been with them through thick and thin, what you got from Greg Berlanti was one or two things that were correct, and the rest of it, not so much. And then a whole lot of additional stuff that wasn't originally in there. I don't hate Greg Berlanti at all. I just think that my thing is that this whole thing with him creating air quotes stuff and then leaving after creating a program after 2 years to go off and do something else was kind of detrimental to everything that he did. You know, whether you're talking Arrow or The Flash, he did it with all, though, of his shows, even his non-superhero shows. He stuck around long enough, usually 2, maybe 3 seasons, and he was gone. And I just think that's not how I would have handled that. You know, I think it was detrimental ultimately to what was created. And again, you cannot convince me that Batgirl television show was his best work in any version of any universe. That was one of the worst television shows of the last 25 years. You know, and as bad as that show was, its only saving grace is that Star Trek Discovery was worse than that. And I'm not just saying it to say it. I mean, it's already been proven. It's a matter of record that according to the Nielsen ratings, Star Trek Discovery rated lower than Batwoman. So, just saying. It's never made sense that Ralph's Superman was the same as Christopher Reeve simply due to the character's ages and the technology. I get what you're saying, Wolverine 66. It still didn't stop Warner Brothers and Bryan Singer from making that movie the way that they did. And when you watch the documentary on the making of the movie, that's exactly what he says they're going for. It's meant to be in the same universe. I'm sorry. I mean, I know that there are people out there that are fans of the movie. I'm kind of a fan myself. I like Brandon Routh. I like that entire cast. I just didn't think the script was there, and I thought the pacing of the movie was a little too slow. Now, I will say this. It's still a hell of a lot better movie than X-Men 3, which is the movie it had to go up against. X-Men 3 is an S show. That's exactly what it is.
Brian left the X-Men to do Superman, and in the process, we lost both franchises.
Well, don't make it seem like he just like, oh, I'm just gonna make Superman. He was relieved of his duties, is what happened on that one. I don't care how anybody tries to tell the story.
What he said was that he quit. He quitted X-Men.
Yeah, I know. He says he quit. He didn't quit. He found out he had lost his job from when, a member of the press, I think it was somebody from the Hollywood Reporter, called him up one day to ask what his reaction was to not being asked back for the third X-Men movie.
Ouch.
That's what happened.
That is no way to.
Yeah, so he decided to put a positive spin on it by saying, well, I left. You know, it's like, okay, you tell that story, man. Because, see, here's the reason why I say that. It doesn't jibe with what he was doing when he got the phone call. He originally was working on Battlestar Galactica and had to leave that in order to complete his work on X2. So he had to leave his office that he had on the Universal lot to fly back up to Canada to finish all of the reshoots they had for X2. When he got back to the United States, eventually Universal decided to part ways with him and his business partner and kicked them off the lot. They kept all of the stuff connected to what they were working on for their version of Battlestar Galactica. And this is backed up by the company that they had hired to do the visual effects. Google Bryan Singer Battlestar Galactica visual effects. And you're going to see that, the Cylons that they used in the Sci-Fi Channel version of the show that became very popular look exactly like what they have on these plans here. Turns out the people who ended up doing that show took all of the paperwork and stuff that had been done by Bryan Singer originally and molded it into their idea of what they eventually ended up doing with the show. Little side knowledge about how Battlestar Galactica actually came back. But Bryan Singer's had a lot of projects that he's worked on, and quite a few of those things have not come to pass. And he took the opportunity to work on Superman because Warner Brothers found out that he had no job. Well, of course, Warner Brothers is going to jump at the opportunity to get him. This is the guy behind X-Men and X2. Of course. Ironically, in both instances where Warner Brothers and DC took one of the Marvel cast-offs and they decided to go for one of their directors or a producer, really in all three versions of reality that's happened, none of those projects have done very well. Laura Schuler Donner, who was the boss of all the X-Men films, made a DC film, and that film did not do well. It's got a cult following, but it didn't do that well at the box office, and that's Constantine. And there's a whole story behind that. And then, of course, Bryan Singer with Superman Returns. That film didn't do that well. And then Joss Whedon, who was brought in to take over Justice League. Strike one, strike two, strike three. So I'm hoping, though, that the thing with James Gunn will be different. The odds in history are slightly against James Gunn in that particular instance. But I'm hoping that because James Gunn actually is a comic book fan, that things will work out a little bit differently. Now, Joss Whedon is also a comic book fan, but he was under different working conditions because he was trying to make a movie that had already basically been finished. And his job was to come in and re-alter the film using all the actors that had already been cast and trying to rewrite a script that was already in existence without having to reshoot too much to spend too much money, which ultimately didn't work because they basically had to almost reshoot the entire movie to change it. I think if Joss Whedon had had his own original idea, or at least an idea of how he would tackle a character within the DC pantheon, I think things would have been a little different. Anyway, Wolverine 626 says the Arrowverse was very far from perfect, but I do like that they acknowledge past DC films and TV series as being canon to the multiverse. Again, I get it. I see how you reached it. Personally, I started out like you, and I eventually just didn't care anymore. Serious. That's the look. I will always be honest with you guys. Okay, I am a nerd of color. I've had to sit through decades of waiting to see characters like me. And after what happened with Fox and what happened with Sam Raimi, when he and Renaissance Television created a superhero television show, and what Fox ended up doing to that show after they had a successful pilot, showed me the way Hollywood works. Between Mantis and then the movie Steel, both of those are examples of shows with people of color in the lead that were heavily altered from its original inception to make certain changes that were a little more acceptable according to the studios that were running everything. Mantis was altered because they felt that no one could buy into the fact that you could have a black man be smart enough to create technology that would give him powers. And ironically, the same thing happened with Steel, where you introduce a character that in the comics never existed. And basically that came up with something that Gerry and I talk about and laugh about, because I taught him this whole thing, which is, you ever notice when they decide to downplay the intelligence of a black lead character, that they'll usually bring in, more often than not, a white person in a wheelchair. That happened in Mantis, happened in Steel, but more often than not,
Steel was bad.
Yeah, Steel was bad, but it also again happened in other for other characters, and again, same thing happened with Static, the character of Static, because when you look at Static in the comics and what his origin story is versus the Saturday morning cartoon, they didn't exactly do that one justice either. You can't let a character just be creative and be who they are. You gotta. A lot of executives can't wrap their heads around that. It's a little too much for them, so they can only quote unquote buy it. If there was a white person somewhere there doing all the heavy lifting as far as technology or coming up with all of the great ideas. Because I'm telling you that there's a lot of people who are Static fans for the cartoon. But I will tell you right now, even you would have to admit that there's a world of difference between the Static comics that the cartoons were based on and the Saturday morning cartoon. Just saying. Oh, and Black Lightning. Don't get me started on the Black Lightning television show from Greg Berlanti. Again, a character like Black Lightning is a very simple character. A man has the ability to focus and use electricity from his body. Why do you need a white guy to come up with a special suit for him when in the comics he's just wearing regular clothes and he's just doing his thing? Thank you, Greg Berlanti. Again, I don't mean to be that guy. I have no hate for Greg Berlanti. Never met the man. I'm appreciative of the fact that he seemingly is a fan of a sort. But there are way too many compromises.
Of a sort.
Well, again, there are certain changes that he made that even as a fan, you have to sit there and go, well, why would he do that?
I don't think he's a fan. I think he's when you see the product, it looks more like the product of a poser that wants to be accepted by the fans.
Mm-hmm.
So he just see the covers of the comic books and then draw his own fan fiction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do give him this. I will say that, like James Gunn, he does have an affinity for digging into the past and finding low-level or next to non-popular characters within DC Comics and, finding opportunities to bring them to the front in order to create these whole new personalities for the characters and do. It's great. Okay, it's fine. But for the most part, it just seems like bringing the character to life and then altering that character severely seems to have been his grand plan, and more often than not, was to alter the character in other ways. Wolverine 626, the original pilot for Mantis wasn't terrible. Reminded me of Black Panther to a degree, but the suit for the actual series was much better. The trench coat in the pilot was not a good look. Again, a lot of people agree with you, but it was Fox who wanted actor Roger Rees from who had appeared in several episodes of Cheers to be a part of the show, and so as to not, cross over into Carl Lumley's portion of the show, they decided to put him in a wheelchair. But they retconned the pilot in so much as they made Roger Rees's character the real inventor of the suit. There's no reason to put his character in there at all. None. And that's nothing against Roger Rees. He, as an actor, he took the job. He wanted to get paid. I enjoy him as a performer. The late, great Roger Rees. I enjoyed him on Cheers. I enjoyed him on The West Wing. But there was no reason to have his character on that show. I say that even for what they did in Steel. And I enjoy that actress. But I also say the same thing about the Black Lightning series. You got people who probably have never read Black Lightning, so they don't understand what I'm saying. It was just Jefferson Pierce. That's it. It wasn't any inventor that came to him to give him a suit to help him control his powers. That was just a way of shoehorning in an extra character because they couldn't believe that you could have a guy who would be able to figure everything out on their own. I mean, it's embarrassing but true. That's just more of what a lot of people like myself who've grown up with a lot of this stuff, we're used to it. We're used to it being implied that while we might be action heroes, we're not smart enough to really figure things out on our own. Thus the reason why I said Josh Trank made a mistake with his Fantastic Four. Michael B. Jordan should have been Reed Richards. Just saying. We don't need another opportunity to have a young, angry black man and then turning him into Human Torch. If you really wanted to stretch out a little bit, it would have been having a young black man who was probably the smartest man in comics. That would have been different. And having Miles Teller as the Human Torch, that would have been different. So, let's see. Cam's Crash Courses, Gap After Dark. Okay. That's another message. Okay.
Yeah, but I wanted to give some exposure to this.
Yes.
Exposure. Oh my God. Yes, they are having a birthday stream for Cardinal Sin.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a blow.
Yeah, that was a blow
to the whole community, man.
Let me at least express my condolences. Cardinal Sin has done a lot for us here on Pop Culture Minefield and a lot of different shows that I've been a part of. So rest in peace. Let's see. Anyway, let me get on to at least to something slightly happier, or at least more in keeping with where I'm going with all of this. So all of us are kind of excited to one degree or another, I should say, with the news of Superman Legacy. And I will definitely say that I'm quite happy with the fact that they're getting ready to start production on this film. I think it just feels kind of weird, but I am ready to have a new Superman. I'm ready to be back on board with all of this stuff, and I'm just happy that James Gunn and Peter Safran are finally moving this thing along. So anyway, let's take a look at this. So let's see.
Oh, are you looking for the picture that you sent me?
I got it right here.
Man,
Okay.
that is a nice picture.
Yeah. Nathan Fillion really knows how to take those selfies. So this is from Instagram. And let's see. For those of you who have never seen this picture, this is a picture from Instagram that James Gunn, the guy right here in the middle, put out there on his Instagram post. And it's him and the actors who have gathered in Atlanta for a script reading and the sets and everything else. They're going to start filming soon on this movie, Superman Legacy. Okay. So for those who have not figured out who's who in this picture, let me at least give you a little something here. Okay, this is James Gunn, Peter Safran. Okay, I'm not too sure about a lot of the actors' names, so I'll give you their character names. Jimmy Olsen, Metamorpho, Lois Lane, Lex Luthor, Superman, Otis, and let's see, he's playing Mr.
Terrific
2.0. 2.0 Mr. Terrific.
Man, that actor, the first time I saw him was in X-Men. Remember?
Yeah, X-Men First Class.
Yeah, and then I saw him on Crank.
Yeah,
I love him, but he doesn't get enough job. He's a terrific actor. I would love to see more of him.
this is Eve Tessmacher. And let's see, this is Hawk Girl. Let's see. So he's playing Guy Gardner, and this is the engineer, who that's the biggest difference, making the engineer a woman for this movie. Now, this character and this character are not in the comics. Okay? They were invented for the Richard Donner film. So, with James Gunn adding these two characters in there, along with Lex Luthor, he's kind of bringing back a little bit of a Donner flavor to this movie. Okay? Now, from what I'm hearing, this version of Otis will not be played the same way that we've known the character. He'll be a little different. How different? Don't know. I don't have a copy of the script. But this is your cast, or at least some of them. Now, here's another thing you need to know. Now, according to those who have done the work, they have found some of the paperwork put forth and submitted about this production. They aren't just filming in Atlanta. They will be headed to Cincinnati, Ohio for part of the production. Okay? Now, some of you fans out there might be familiar with why Cincinnati is important. Anyone who grew up watching a certain cartoon after its debut, September 8th, 1973, can tell you that when you mention the Hall of Justice, that's very important. But the train station there, the famous train station in downtown Cincinnati, which was used as the basis for the Hall of Justice in the Super Friends cartoon, is one of the few things that could bring a production there. Now, Greg Berlanti has already done that. He did that for like 2 episodes, different shows, but 2 episodes of different TV shows that he was producing, actually did stuff using that train station. Okay? Turns out that's not the only place in Ohio where they are going to shoot. Looks like James Gunn's going to take a page out of Joss Whedon's book and of the Russos, and he's going to take his production also to Cleveland, Superman's hometown. So as to what they will do there, again, one can only speculate. But it looks like they're gonna basically try to do some things. Now, there have been fan speculation as to how the Hall of Justice can play into the story. And one particular speculation that I quite like is that since James Gunn has already established several characters that we've already seen up to this point in certain films left over from the previous Warner Brothers administration, certain characters like Blue Beetle, and that it was important to establish that while the movie may not have done very well, that Black Adam also takes place as part of this current continuity. Now, whether or not The Rock will be back is a whole different story. But what that means is that the Justice Society exists in this reality. And that the rumor that I heard is that the Hall of Justice will actually be the headquarters of the Justice Society in this version of the DC Universe. Thus, Mr. Terrific becomes important because Mr. Terrific is a character from the Justice Society. Although this is the second version of the character and not the original version of the character. That will also be important. What that also means is that we could very well see many of the actors who you saw in Black Adam, meaning the members of the Justice Society. Well, there's the possibility they could make a return. Whether or not that'll be in this film, no one knows. But what that means for me is that Pierce Brosnan could find a way back. I know I've seen the end of Black Adam. I'm just hoping Pierce Brosnan can come back because I like this character. So anyway, there you go. That's what I got. That's that part of it. What this does is it's going to give them a head start by having the Justice Society. That means you can delay introducing other characters. You know, you can take your time being introduced to the Barry Allen version of the Flash. You can take your time being introduced to even Martian Manhunter, or take your time being introduced to even Green Arrow, because you're going to have all these other heroes associated with the Justice Society be introduced, and since the Justice Society was the original first comic book super team, it makes sense that they would be the predominant super team within this version of the universe if you mesh all of the DC hero history together. Because Justice League was formed years after the Justice Society. So let's see.
Wolverine has a question for you.
Yes. Keith, do you think Otis is going to be portrayed as the bumbling oaf that he's typically been portrayed as? From what I've heard, no. They are going to avoid that version of the character. From what I heard, this Otis will be different than that one. Because while they are using the name, they are wanting to allow this particular actor and this character to be slightly different. Because if they tried to play it the same way, there'd be too much of a comparison. You know?
Yeah.
It's the reason why I think Nicholas Hoult is not going to be playing the Donner version of Lex Luthor.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, you want to be different.
As long as it is not like the last one. Oh my God. Don't get me wrong. I really like Jesse Eisenberg work. But man, that character was badly written.
He's a little strange, a little on the strange side. I didn't mind that character at all. I get what he was going for. Would I have written a character like that? No, I would not have written the character. I would have written the character the way that he appeared in the Man of Steel comic from the 80s. That version of the character is badass.
Have you seen the animated version of Superman, All-Star Superman?
Oh, yeah.
That, to me, that is Lex Luthor. That is how Lex should be always.
Yeah. I tell people all the time that the version of Luthor that you see in the Man of Steel comic miniseries from the 80s, that entire miniseries to me is the best update of the Superman character. It gives so many cool ways of updating the character. You know, it's a great book made by someone who was most definitely a Marvel guy. You know, if you're a Marvel fan and you've always had a trouble with DC heroes, especially Superman, and you really want to know how things work, the Man of Steel miniseries is for you. John Byrne did an incredible job on that. He reinvented the character and created everything that you've seen with Lex Luthor in recent years. That's all John Byrne's version of Lex Luthor. All of it. That's how effective that version of the character was. Whether you're talking Smallville, television series, or you're talking even Superman Returns, or all of it. everything since the early 1980s. Every single version of Superman, whether you're talking Superman the animated series or any version of Lex Luthor that you saw from that point on, all of that is inspired by John Byrne's version of the character. And that version of Lex Luthor I really like. That guy was just a whole new level. Anyway, we are past time to do a little work here. Well, but we hit it's 11:15, which means I think we need to go to it.
Oh, I was watching the stream timer and not the clock. Silly me. So here's our beautiful ad for a very, very great comic that is soon to come to us.
Yes.
Here we go.
Meet the Seattle Vigilante. Like so many comic heroes, this warrior hides his identity. But his identity isn't the only secret he has to keep. After grievous wounds received during combat, Tier 1 operator John Russell begins to recover and comes to terms with his new reality of being an amputee. And as he learns how to use his new prosthetic limb, he finds himself caught up in the bureaucratic red tape that too many wounded veterans experience, the exhausting medboard process. Out of sheer frustration, John takes it out on the criminal scum of the city. But when reality kicks in, John realizes he started something that's having an impact on the greater world around him, and thus has to reevaluate his motives. And moreover, just how far is John willing to go to finish this war he's declared against the criminals in Seattle? And will he even survive? From the creator of IDW's award-winning graphic novel Code Word Geronimo comes a new story about a different kind of warrior, Vindicated Inc., the first of its kind disabled veteran action hero comic. The Vindicated Inc. graphic novel crowdfunding campaign on fundmycomic.com is provided in the description of this video. We hope you become a contributor. Please share this link. Thank you.
Vindicated Inc. Go ahead, jump on the bandwagon. Go ahead, jump in on this while you still can. Do not wait until this becomes a major motion picture, because then it might be too late. Let's see. Monkey Jeebus says Superman Birthright is the origin of modern Superman. They made him realistic as Clark having a life. Actually, the first time they did that was Man of Steel from John Byrne. But that Superman Birthright took what John Byrne did and tried to go a little further with it. But the whole thing with Clark being quote unquote normal, being a normal guy, not a klutz, and being a reporter who cared and tried to make all of that comes from Man of Steel. Getting rid of the blue suit and instead just wearing whatever. A lot of what you saw from with the character of Clark in Batman v Superman and any version of him after Man of Steel, that was because of John Byrne, who started that. Again, a Marvel guy allowed to play in the DC sandbox. Who would have thought? Not the first one, definitely not the last one. And Marvel guys who come to DC to do stuff end up having a lot of success. Okay? All I can say is Jack Kirby going to DC is the saving grace, and why Jack is the one who you should believe when it comes to him telling everyone that he actually wrote a lot of the stuff that he worked on, and he did a lot more work than what Stan Lee has given him credit for. Okay? A good example of that is Challengers of the Unknown. Jack's work on that is what led him to create with Stan Lee, Fantastic Four. Without that, there would be no Fantastic Four. And Fantastic Four eventually led to the creation of the X-Men. Boom. Anyway, wait a minute. Anima has a message for me. I'm sorry, Anima. Keith, this is when you're supposed to play the ad after 1 hour. Stop more about. I don't have the ability to play ads. That's the thing.
Well, to be fair, you cannot confuse me. I am already confused.
But I will try not to confuse Martin in the future, okay? Okay, Anima? I want to be on your good side. Anyway, Teen Titans is DC's X-Men. Not true. Teen Titans in the 80s is DC's X-Men. Prior to that, no. Teen Titans is a concept that Marvel couldn't do because there weren't that many sidekicks at Marvel to be able to put that together. So that's that. Teen Titans has been a thing since the very, 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 very late 50s, early 1960s. Well before X-Men came on the scene. So, again, it's part of a lot of you Marvel fans out there who aren't familiar with DC need to be familiar with the history of DC Comics and what they've done. There's a lot that you're missing. There is a lot you are missing. And when it comes to actual dates and everything, when it comes to what came first and doing things and who was inspired by what, there's been a lot of cross-pollination between DC and Marvel and vice versa. So, awesome one. Happy super birthday to you. And again, it's a great day. Great day. So, yeah, Monkey. Yeah, Rick Jones is the only one. He basically got passed around between two different heroes. Meanwhile, the one they had for DC, he just up and disappeared. And then he got fat and bald.
Wait. How about Bucky?
Okay, that's one sidekick. You're going to do a whole super team with Rick Jones, a guy without powers, and Bucky, a guy whose major contribution after the war was dying before the war ended.
Oh, man, that's a little harsh. Not saying that isn't true, but harsh.
Meanwhile, the DC, which helped to create the concept of a sidekick with the introduction of Robin and kicked off all of these other heroes having sidekicks. For the Marvel fans, if I were you guys, I'd be asking what happened to Toro. Not just Bucky, but what happened to Toro. And if you don't know who Toro was, you're not that big of a Marvel fan. But it's I can at least say this, okay? DC has had a much bigger effect on American comics than what many have been informed. These last few years have been all Marvel, and Marvel has earned it, every single bit of it. Okay, they have had a lot of great success in comics and in films. But there's a reason why DC is the comic company. It is the home of the man who is responsible for the modern American comic book industry. It is the home to the longest run of success as far as Hollywood goes with any comic book company. They first started with DC. Marvel's had a few. And while total number of movies, Marvel has definitely outdistanced DC in the total number of live action films in terms of just total number and box office. DC's biggest claim is they were first in terms of having the first live action films and have won more of the important Academy Awards to do it. They have two Best Supporting Actor Academy. No, they have a Best Supporting Actor and a Best Actor Academy Award. I'm telling you, nobody back in 1978 when Superman the movie came out, if you had told anyone that, hey, eventually these comic book movies were going to get Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor Academy Awards eventually, everybody, including many comic book fans, would have said you were crazy. DC has two. Marvel has zero. Great box office, though. But zero so far. So, and here's a little something for you, Monkey Jeebus. Can you name the DC Comics hero character that was the opposite or their version of what Rick Jones was? And can you do it without using Google? Anyway, so the other thing I wanted to point out. Oh, look at you, Snapper Carr. You are indeed correct. A character that was completely and utterly mistreated when he was placed on the Supergirl program by Greg Berlanti and his people. Because they...
Awesome one thing is She-Hulk.
Nice try, Fly Guy. Nice try. But one of the things in being a Superman fan is, as I've been saying before, it's hard to be one and not, when you think of Hollywood, not think of any of the previous people that have played the part. And for a majority of people, even for Kevin Feige, it is difficult, almost impossible, not to think of really the granddaddy of all of it, which is Richard Donner's Superman. Those films have raised an entire generation and will continue to inspire generations thereafter. It's not hard to see why, though, when you look at all of the films and you look at what it took for all those films to get made. For me, I just think that if you are a Superman fan and you do not have the 5-film collection the 4K Ultra HD of the Donner Superman collection, you're missing. It's got everything in there. It's got everything in there.
But it's heavy on the price side.
It is. It is. But it is worth it.
Oh yeah, thank you for bringing that to my attention. It is now in my wish list of Amazon. Mm,
it's a big movie. It's a big box.
oh
But
yeah,
it's worth it. I mean, right now I think its current pricing is $99.74, which is
yeah.
way cheaper than what it was when it first came out. Okay, way cheaper. I think Target has it for 116. But Walmart has it for the same price as Amazon, $99.74. And you have to understand that what makes this worth it, in my opinion, is that it includes, of course, the film, which is Superman the movie, but it also includes Richard Donner's Superman 2, which really is the sequel or the second half of Superman the movie. Now, there's Richard Lester's Superman 2, but my big problem with that film is the fact that, one, they spent more money and took longer for that film to come out. You know, when you make a film, when you make movies back to back and film them simultaneously, one would think that, you know, you had the first one come out in 1978, and then by all rights, that next movie should come out in 1979. Well, Superman 2 didn't come out in 1979.
Dude. After the whole debacle with Aquaman, that is going. It's getting in the main route to wait 2, 3, maybe 4 years.
Well, but the thing is that they had to do some reshooting, just like what happened years later with Justice League. You have a new director come in, and
the
they
Flash.
but you had a new director come in, and they decided to alter the movie. So in doing that, they went ahead and added a few scenes. They created some brand new scenes for the new director's version of the movie, and then they altered scenes or refilmed scenes that were already shot, including filming a whole new version of a scene that had already been shot from before. They had to film a brand new scene with Kal-El. In the film, originally had a scene with his father, played by Marlon Brando. And that scene was, they had to reshoot it. But Brando wasn't coming back. He was wanting a lot more money to come back to reshoot the scene. So what they did was they brought in the actress who played his mother, Laura, and that's how they shot the scene in Superman 2. But in actuality, the original version of that scene was between Clark and his father. And I think that when you look at why Richard Donner was gotten rid of, BS reason, and what he was attempting to do, just like with The Godfather, both movies, you should have been able to take both movies and put them together for it to make one long film. And the Richard Lester theatrical cut doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work. It's, while it has the Phantom Zone villains in it and it concludes the story, it wasn't made to really be done like that. Whereas Richard Donner's version, you could almost edit that in too with Superman the movie to create one long movie. And that really is the major thing about that film. It feels and plays no differently than the first film. That's the way it should be. And the story just makes a whole lot more sense. I never understood the whole thing with the Eiffel Tower. And now there's a reason why it didn't sit well with me, because that was one of the new pieces of footage they went out and filmed. They ended up spending all that money to fly everybody to Paris to shoot that. That was not originally in the movie. And all kinds of little distractions and things they did to pump up the comedic portions of the film. Whereas Donner he had already achieved what he wanted, the balance, with action and adventure and comedy and all that. He had the perfect balance with the first movie and was continuing that with the second film. But now, I don't know. I know that there are people who really enjoy Superman 3. I don't think that film benefits anyone, personally. I know there are those who really enjoy that, and fine, more power to you. I'm just not one of those people. So it's a little too much for me. Superman 4, technically that's pretty much just, you're not using any of the stuff that you had with the other movies. I mean, you can definitely tell that the studio in charge of the movie is not exactly on the same level as Warner Brothers. I mean, it's Gannon Globus. And what they're famous for making. I mean, I will admit, this is probably the biggest film they've ever had to make. But that's because everybody was used to a certain kind of quality after the other three movies. And Quest for Peace is just, everybody's had an off day at the office, and this is definitely one of them. Yeah. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, there's only two Superman films. Superman the movie and Superman 2 Donner Cut. And that's it. Nothing against Richard Lester. But yeah, your movie's a little outside the norm there. But it's definitely something that all you Superman fans should definitely check out. Now, Martin, I would like to take this point to apologize again. I don't mean to be offensive to your wallet. I know I keep pointing out things that keep costing ultimately you money, and I really don't mean to do that.
I think you do.
No, I don't. I really don't.
Well, do you want me to bring this up?
Sure.
Oh, no, that is not there anymore.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll bring it back. I will definitely bring that back for you. Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
4K HD. But
you
it is.
if you
Oh,
ordered it
the only
today,
thing is, it's not a steel box. It's the only thing.
if you ordered this today, depending on how you have it delivered, you could either go on their fastest delivery, which should get it to you tomorrow, or the free delivery, and you'd get it on the 5th, which is Tuesday.
I could wait 5 days.
But it's definitely worth your time. It's a great collection. These are great movies, and again, it's definitely a film series that you could sit and watch with the entire family. And in my opinion, you add in Superman Returns,
Eh, not
and
necessarily.
no,
Man,
I mean,
I don't like that movie. I don't like at all that movie. They
okay.
made Superman a creepo and a homebreaker. What the fuck? No, 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 no.
Well, then, okay, let me. Okay, you know what? Not Superman Returns. You could add in the television series Superman and Lois.
Oh yeah. Best Superman show live action to date.
Today, yes, it's a great show. I love the entire cast. And seriously, I do. I think it's a really well done show. And again, I give Berlanti and all his people credit for that. Okay, that's an example of a good Superman series. I wish we hadn't reached the quote unquote final season of the show. I'd like to see how far you could take this show, because this show could easily, in my opinion, go 10 seasons. It's written that well. And I feel bad for everyone connected that the show isn't going to make it past season 4. So, hold on. Let me. There we go. Let me at least. Man, this whole screen sharing thing. I got so much to show everybody.
That's always.
But no, out of all of the shows out there that Berlanti has produced, this one's one of the best ones. It has consistently just been high quality across the board. And I was a little dubious at first, but not only have they won me, but it's in my opinion must-see TV every time it comes on. And for those of you who are parents, the messages of this show are just fantastic. This is a easy show that if you have kids, especially teenagers, you can just sit there and just watch this and enjoy it.
Should I bring it up?
Sure.
For real? Oh no. They gave that shield to him? The black and red?
Which one? This one?
Yeah. Or is it
That's from the pilot.
Oh man, they should have gone with that. If you haven't noticed, I'm a fan of that uniform.
Me too. That's based on that's based on how Gerry and Joe had the character in the first issue that they did. And the first issue of Superman, the comic, that scene is a really well done scene because they recreate the whole thing with the car, like in the in the cover of the first issue of Superman, and he's got the car and he's holding it, and they recreated that because that's what that car back there was. And there's a little boy watching him, and he walks up to the little boy, and he notices that he's looking at him. He's looking at his S, and he says, "Yeah, my mom made it for me." And then he jumps up and flies away. And it's just like, wow, that's the definition of wholesome right there. It's a part of what Superman is. It's definitely something that was a detriment to many comic book fans when it came to the character, especially going into the 80s. A lot of comic book fans didn't appreciate that, and it's great that we've swung back around to that. So, but yeah, this entire show is just well done. And for those of you who have never seen the show, I kind of envy you because now you've got something to look forward to when you find it on Netflix. I think it's eventually going to go to Netflix. And I think this show is going to get a whole new audience when it does. Personally, I think it's the best Superman series outside of Superman the Animated Series. You could almost say that Superman and Lois is the concluding chapter to Superman the Animated Series.
I don't know, man. Lois and Clark has a very special place in my heart.
Nothing against Lois and Clark. Lois and Clark is special, first and foremost, for being the first live-action Superman to actually allow the Kents to live. Prior to that, every version of Superman, live action, has followed what the comics had done, with both Pa and Ma Kent having passed away and Superman just being lonely. And so making it so that both of them survive and are alive as he is Superman was really different and was kind of radical. Lois and Clark was cool. It was a cool show. Nothing against Lois and Clark at all. But I find Superman and Lois to be a slightly better show. Just in terms of how they balance story and character. I love the fact that they're getting ready to introduce, in my opinion, a real Lex Luthor. Ding, 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 ding. And not this guy. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
What were they thinking?
Well, I'm trying. If you don't have something nice to say. Okay. I'm just saying, John Cryer is an interesting actor, and he's definitely tried to make it. He's definitely trying to insert himself into the Superman mythos more than once. He don't fit. I'm sorry, man. You don't fit. You don't fit at all. In fact, I'll even, and I'm going to say this. I don't know John Cryer, never met the man. I'm pretty sure he and I'd have a great time. We'd have some laughs and sit down for a couple of beers. But realistically, if I'm judging Lex Luthor's, Jesse Eisenberg goes well before
Wow.
you, man.
I don't know.
Well
I don't
before John.
know.
I'm sorry. Well before John Cryer's version of Lex Luthor. I'm sorry. I can't do it. I can't do it. I've tried so hard. I've tried. His version is just, it's John Cryer trying to be Lex. Oh my goodness. No. He's just, no. Then again, I was not a fan of Supergirl, so that's the reason why I can't do it. You know, the Supergirl series wasn't good for me. You know, I'm sure there are people out there who dug it, but you know, it's just for me. Superman and Lois, they gave us John Henry Irons as a regular character on the show. That's kind of cool. Loving it. But yeah. I can't do it. Can't do John Cryer. Just can't do it. What'd you say?
We're being watched.
Bye.
Gerry, big brother.
Uh-oh.
The evil eye of Sauron.
Uh-oh. Look. Okay. Okay. Let me just erase my search history here. We'll just go back to doing the show. Because, you know.
Man. So
hey, Gerry.
Hey, buddy.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. Got to blow my nose, so I'm going to.
Okay. Anyway, yeah.
I had to stop in and say hi.
Well, thank you. Thank you for stopping in and saying hi. Here, let me jump out of this.
So you're celebrating Superman today.
Yeah, the birthday, the I should say the leap year birthday of Kal, son of El. So, but we're celebrating all things Superman today, and just expressing my love for what has been put out there thus far. And as I was telling everyone, I really love Superman and Lois as a show. It's fun. You know, it's one of the few Greg Berlanti productions that I think gets a lot more stuff right than it gets wrong.
Well, you and I both know that that's because Greg Berlanti was put on a tight leash on that. That's HBO money, Warner Brothers money.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to let him screw it up. So he's on there. His name is on there. And he's got a little say, but mostly it's other people in charge of that. The writers have more power than him. So, and that, you know, and it's why I found it so odd that Safran and Gunn would cancel it.
Yeah. Well, I understand. I don't agree with the decision. I understand because the current situation going on with movie fans and the fact, the confusion with Madam Web and the MCU thing, I totally get that. I understand. There are just some people.
Madam Web's a huge wake up call to everybody.
Yeah, I think my thing is this: everybody that watches this show, your show, and a few other shows online like this, all of you guys, everyone within the sound of my voice right now, you guys are very well versed in how all this works. But for the normies out there, they don't know the difference. And many of them, like some of the stars of Madam Web, actually thought that the movie they were making was in the MCU. You know? And
silly actors.
I'm just like, at what point did your agent or somebody related to the studio not just come up to you to explain how this works? I mean, one would think that you would do that before you sign any contract.
Oh yeah. Hold on a second. We've got Penny just said "boom baby" to me. Hi, Penny. Wolverine 626, good to see you. And Cam, that sounds wonderful. Can you get a hold of me through my personal Twitter account? It's at Gerry Cassell. I'd appreciate it because I would like to drop in, say hi. Celebrating Cardinal Sin's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, of course. May you rest in peace. I see my girlfriend's in the audience.
Yeah,
Not wanting to hang out with me, instead watching you. I don't know what to make of that shit.
She's
Who can blame her?
She's
Man,
busted me on a couple things. she's
Did
busted
she?
my backside on a few things.
Oh, good. She's giving it to somebody else other than me. Awesome. I reminded her last night. I said, it's really important for women in relationships to understand that they're just as annoying to us as they think we are to them. I said,
Look,
you think you're God's gift to men. The fact is, you're pretty fucking annoying. We love you, but you're annoying. And
I
we
have
put up with your shit because we love you.
I have nothing but respect and hugs and everything for Anima. So
she's awesome.
She's
the first woman that I've ever let this far into my life. Ever. I involve her in so many things.
She obviously loves you so much that at times she even acts like you, and she's willing to bust other people's backsides. So
she's a little too free with the word idiot, but she'll call somebody who's actually really smart an idiot, and I'm like, they're not an idiot, they're just wrong. I love her. She's awesome. I'm serious. She's pretty amazing. But anyway, with Superman, because he was really one of the first comics I ever read. And I don't consider it my real introduction to comics, but whenever I would visit my grandpa, because unbeknownst to a lot of people, my grandfather was an avid comic book reader, and my Uncle Harold. In fact, he learned to read from comics.
Wow.
And I miss Uncle Harold. I love my Uncle Harold. We used to call him Fathead because he got a brain tumor the size of a softball, and he had to have a chunk of his brain removed, and they were afraid that his brain would slosh, and they were trying to figure out what to do, so they took fat from his ass and injected it into his skull. So he had a chunk of ass fat in his head, so we called him Butthead.
Oh, jeez.
Uncle Butthead.
Oh, wow.
He's the one I told you about before, that because my one of my best friends growing up, and I lived with him for a while, Kennard, black dude from high school. And my uncle came to visit, and he's from old school Midwest, and my uncle was driven out of my uncle, my grandfather, my entire family were run out of Tennessee overnight because they dared to pay the black laborers the same wage they paid the white laborers. And I mean, they were driven out of town. And, there was fear that people would be killed or they would be killed kind of situation.
Wow.
And, they were very progressive thinking people, my family, but they were old school. And I'm sitting there with Kennard one day, and my uncle and aunt came to visit me. And my uncle used the colloquial term for a black man from the Midwest, which was not the hard N word, but ends with "ruh" at the end, right? You know the word I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah.
He says, "I've never seen so many
era
in this area as it is now." And Kennard goes, look at his fucking face, and he looked at me, and I looked at him and went, just the old school word that they used in the Midwest. He's old school. Those people died off, thank God. You don't hear that word anymore. Thank God. I never liked that word.
The first time I heard somebody say that
It was old, wasn't it? They were old.
They were definitely older, and I was living here by then, and even I had that moment where it's like, what you just say? I mean,
and so after my uncle and aunt left, I told Kennard what they did, and he's like, "Oh," I said, "This man has no animus in his heart for anybody based on race.
Yeah.
He just hates assholes, and he didn't like rednecks either. I like rednecks as long as they're not racist, and I've got a lot of old school redneck friends, and I grew up in fucking Fredericksburg, Virginia, for God's sake, right next to Country Bumpkin, Virginia." And so I got a lot of redneck friends. What's this? Monkey's here. What's up, Monkey? Yeah, back there, Gary's here. Yeah, that's not a breach.
And by the way,
That's just stating a fact.
Has been a member for 19 months.
That says something about our relationship that she keeps paying to be my girlfriend.
My God. I'm not going to say anything.
She's very supportive of this stuff that we do, and she nearly can afford this stuff too because she's still looking for work right now. And God love her.
We got to get her over here. That's what it comes down
to.
Yeah,
honey, that wasn't him being lazy. He was just stating who I am. Backdoor Gerry. That's who I am. It's not technically a breach. It's not a breach until he cleverly puts it into a sentence. So, but
wow.
My goodness. So Cardinal Sin's birthday this week. It's just, I can't believe he's gone. You know, it's weird.
Yeah.
You know, and the only reason why I didn't go back on his show again is because he had, I don't pay, I just beg. Okay.
Wow.
No, man, she's so awesome. But you know, I didn't go back on his show again because I grew up around drug addicts. And this is known with my siblings and even my mother. And my dad was an alcoholic. And I was on his show one night and he was medicated. And it made me, and it's not his fault, it's mine. I felt so uncomfortable, I never went back on because it just reminded me too much of that shit I went through as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, you know, it's like when I'm around friends that are married and they're having an argument, and I get really quiet. If you haven't ever seen me do that around people, I'll get quiet. And the reason why is because of the shit I went through as a kid. I get quiet. And Mac, you know, my friend Mac, he experienced it with me too. And I finally had to have a talk with him because he would show up at my house just fucked up. And he was so just wanted to start a fight, an argument, not a fight, but an argument.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just get really quiet with him. And finally, one day when he was sober, I said, "Hey, man, do me a big favor and don't come around when you're hammered like that. I love you, buddy. But all you do is you take me back to being a kid with my dad. And I just don't want to be around people that are that altered because it makes me uncomfortable. And I just get quiet. That's what I did with him. I just stopped talking because one, arguing with a drunk is just too easy. Two, they're just going to get angry. And that's what I want to avoid. But I learned a quick lesson when I was a teenager. Do you know the quickest way to beat a drunk in a fight? Just get them off their feet. They're like turtles. They can't get the fuck up. It's hilarious. I was always taught that. Just sweep them. Hey, Brian. Hey, got some interesting news on March 18th, Monday, March 18th. At what time would it be? 3 o'clock our time, I do believe. Yeah, 3 o'clock Central Time, 1 o'clock Pacific Time. I will be on Latino Slant, and we'll be talking about Vindicated Inc. And other things. And it's, you know, plus it looks like Salty Nerd's going to be having me on. So Kadish is sending me the invite to have me on. He wants me to not just talk about my book, but talk about some other things. So he's going to give me a list of subjects that we're going to be talking about in advance because they're doing that thing now. Okay. And Culture Casino does it. Valiant Renegade does it. That when they do their shows, everything's pre-planned, so they stay on beat,
Yes.
stay on subject, and I kind of find that interesting. If you've been keeping up with like Culture's show, he is very structured in how he does his shows.
Yes.
And when I went on his show a few weeks back, I had fun doing that. That was a lot of fun. Well, what are we doing next? And I was thinking, this is something we should really do is have editorial meetings and actually pre-plan the minutes on the show. How many minutes to talk on this subject and immediately move on.
Yeah, I would not mind that at all. In
And
fact,
set timers to remind us, oh, it's time to change. But I also have to point out, EV Mux is what Culture uses. And with EV Mux, we can talk back screen during commercials and other videos. We can actually hear each other talking. Nobody else can, but we can talk back screen. That way I can talk shit to you guys in a whole new fucking way. I mean, just imagine it. Martin, you're sounding a little retarded. Just let you know. Don't be self-conscious. All right, let's go.
And speaking of which, I do have one last thing to tie up the entire show.
Yeah, let's do that.
One last thing, which is, as I've been trying to do all month long, all the month of February for Black History Month, I've been trying to basically introduce or reintroduce people to certain characters.
Every month is Black History Month.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to reintroduce or introduce characters that a lot of people may or may not know. And I have a character that I would like to do that with. And today's character is Mr. Terrific, Michael Holt, who we actually saw will be a part of the cast of Superman Legacy. It is this version of the character that will be seen in the new movie.
Very cool.
Now, a lot of people will say,
who's playing him?
Let's see. The actor's name is right here.
Boy, if they're going to be a white
Eddie
dude.
Gattegi.
There you go.
Or Edie Gattegi.
Edie Gattegi.
They'll race swap other characters, but not a black character.
Well, that's the thing. This is Mr. Terrific 2.0. Okay? The original Mr. Terrific, who's in this picture, his name was Terry Sloan. And he was a member of
I don't know much about this character. So what was he? What was he like? And click on that picture. I want to see a larger image.
Okay. Oops. Here we go. Fair play. He was a guy with a photographic memory, an Olympic-style athlete, and wealthy.
Do they have somebody playing him in the film?
No. They James Gunn only wanted to use this version of the character.
The new version.
Okay. Yeah, mainly because this version of the character was introduced in the Berlanti verse, except that with Berlanti, he renamed the character. Instead of calling him Michael, he called him Curtis, and also changed basically, he did it so that he could do stuff with the character that you couldn't do with the actual character. First of all,
I just see him getting curb stomped. I fucking don't like Greg Berlanti. He's such an ass. God. What is his powers?
Let's see. He is the third smartest man out there. He invented these terrific orbs that keep him invisible from technology, but it also allows him to actually access things that other people can't access. Basically,
nanotechnology.
My only thing about this character is it's like, well, wait a minute. If you have him as part of the Justice League, what's Cyborg for? Why'd you do all that work and bringing Cyborg into the New 52 to make him a founding member if you already got Mr. Terrific? You know, so not like they actually ever really listened to me.
Although I like the kid that played Cyborg, I just don't think he was done very well.
I agree. But
they made him funky.
My only thing is, I like Mr. Terrific. I just wish.
That's an interesting point, by the way. What Monkey just said. He's just Blue Beetle.
Oh, Blue
He has no
Beetle.
powers. It's all tech.
It's tech and how smart he is, and the T-spheres, and he's a member of the Justice Society, which makes sense if you're going to have the Hall of Justice and the Justice Society already be a part of this entire world because of having been introduced in Black Adam. And so my hope is they can somehow figure out a way of getting Pierce Brosnan back and having him be Dr. Fate rather than choosing somebody else to be Dr. Fate. You just bring the character back so that he's Dr. Fate in these new movies. You know, so that would be fantastic to bring Pierce Brosnan back. And I can't think of a reason why he wouldn't do it if you gave
Well, I hope they
that.
don't do the Marvel thing, no. Is because this Mr. Fantastic sounds like an interesting character, but
Mr. Terrific.
at the same time, or Mr. Terrific, the problem with the characters that Marvel would do is they would give him a superpower.
Yeah.
They'd make him mystical or some shit like that. Like they did to what's his name? Iron Fist and
Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Oh, turning
Which
Shang-Chi
was just
into a
basically
superhero.
Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
He was supposed to just be Bruce Lee.
I mean, it's not enough to be the best fighter out there. You got to have a mystical element because he's from the middle. I'm sorry, you're going to get me worked up on that one again. Anyway, this is today's character as we end the month of February and this leap year day, Mr. Terrific. So for those of you out there unfamiliar with the character, give him a read. I like a lot of what they've done with the character in the comics. They made sure to put him in the Justice League animated series, which he was very good in. And those of you who, again, think you know him from Arrow and from The Flash, you don't. That was just Greg Berlanti's altered version of the character, of which, you know, this character is not gay. And I think that's part of the reason why he changed the character's name, so he could do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I at least respect the fact that he did that. If you're going to make a major character change the character's name.
I respect more the people that forced him to do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you better change his name.
Yeah. So
you're going to piss off fans.
You know, and of course, upcoming, you got Metamorpho coming up in the movie, which I'm really looking
that was one of my favorite characters as a kid. I've told you that before.
Yeah, but Greg Berlanti pulled a fake out on everybody because he had hints that Metamorpho was going to be introduced into that universe and never followed through. He never followed through with Metamorpho. Never did. It's like, oh, geez, gosh. And so here's the actor playing him.
Can you click on it?
Legacy?
I can't see it. Oh, I like that guy's an actor, but he's not right. He does not have a square jaw. You know, he's got a pencil neck. Good actor, though. I loved him on Barry. God, he was great on that show. Great death scene.
Rex Mason.
He also, wasn't he on something else, DC? Wasn't he in something else? I just, for some reason, he's popping into my head as having played something else in DC.
Not that I can.
No?
No, actually, yes. He was on Gotham.
Gotham.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. He was bald again.
Yes.
He played, what's his name? The Hitman.
Yeah, the guy who liked to cut himself, and each cut represented a person that he killed.
Yeah.
So, yes. Now, Berlanti introduced the character of Simon Stagg and then killed Simon Stagg and never had Metamorpho on. So, Berlanti, another reason why you and I aren't getting along.
What I don't like and this includes Kevin Feige, people who claim to be great comic book fans that aren't.
Yeah.
And Berlanti claimed it. He's a liar. You and I both know it. We've caught him lying. And Feige's another one.
Yeah. 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 I just, yeah.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
hoping that this is a secret that they're trying to keep from everybody in making Superman Legacy and having Pierce Brosnan return as Dr. Fate. That would be awesome.
Yeah, Pierce was great. He was one of the highlights of that movie.
Oh, he was so good. And Dr. Fate's okay, for a lot of you of the uninitiated and Marvel flavor, Dr. Fate has been around. He was around a long time before Doctor Strange was even an idea in Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's heads. I'm sorry, but yeah, Dr. Fate has been around a long
Well, he's got
time.
that kind of classic design.
Yeah.
That comes from the golden age.
Oh, jeez. Oh, Dr. Fate, one of my favorite characters. One of my all-time favorite characters. Anyway.
See, when you say things like that, it makes me wonder if you're from, somewhere else in the Midwest. Like northern, because geez. You hear that in Chicago, Minnesota. Oh, geez. Not Ohio.
My dad's from Chicago. So.
Okay, that explains it. Dr. Fate is Hawkman's son. Now, we're friends with Hawk. I don't know if that's true. Hawk Holman?
Oh, really?
Hawkman.
Huh. I never would have known.
Yeah, I guess Hawk Holman got around. If Hawk Holman's watching right now and hears me make that joke, I love you, buddy.
Well, he made it back. I don't know about his luggage, but he definitely made it back. Happy to hear that. Anyway, well, let me just get out of this. And let me just say, I think it's about time we wrap up the show. I want to thank.
Well, before we do, Martin has to play this video for Anima. She earned her video.
Yeah.
Here it is.
I have nothing to do with that.
Stop playing that video, Martin. What is wrong with you?
Oh, man.
Hello,
Anyway,
Andy Morrow.
Andy Morrow. Canadian
Just-
Spider-Man.
Just like the British should be late to the show.
Okay, Andy's eating, so play the video again.
He'll do it. He will do it. Don't tempt him.
Yeah, I have an appointment here in a couple hours, so I'm not going to see much of her anyway. So
Anyway, I'd like to thank Canadian Spider-Man, the Peter Venkman fan site. Oh, man. Brian, that 70s rock fan. Awesome One, Adega Outlaw, Das Wolfen, because he's cool like that. Cam's Crash Courses, Monkey Jeebus, Wolverine 626, Lady Penny, The Amazing Anima Confusa, Gap After Dark. And of course, Martin and Gerry for coming in and just keeping me company today. I just want to wish everybody a good day. Go out and do something nice for yourself. And while you're at it, someone else, okay? So, for myself and everyone else here on the old PCM, see you around.